Hello. Oh, bloody hell. Stop talking. Let me pause and centre.
Okay.
Jeez, this is going to be trouble, Jace. Right. Hi, and welcome to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. Join us for interviews, updates and chat with artists, influencers and those that manufacture the gear that we love. Hello and welcome to 9 to 42, the podcast from the guys behind the Guitar Show UK. Legrand Fromage from the Guitar Show, Jason Hunt, is in front of me on screen. How are you, Jace?
I'm very good, Ant. How are you?
Do you know what? I've had a hell of a day. And it's no excuse, but it's been a bit of a pain, so I'm not going to get into it. But in of myself, I'm fine.
Good.
I'm fine.
Good.
How's your day been?
My day's been great, actually. Yeah, sorry to rub it in, but I've had a very guitar-y day. I'm quite happy to share my guitar-y day with you.
Should we introduce our guest first? So
maybe you can chip in on the guitar-y day.
And so he doesn't feel left out in the cold, because I've already insulted him 2 or 3 times. So you know, he's already feeling unloved because I thought he built amps. So and it turns out he doesn't.
Well, no, we should explain that. This was supposed to be Chris from Rift Amps tonight.
Yeah.
And at 4:30 today, I was stood in the queue outside to get into Specsavers with my youngest daughter. Right. And Chris phoned me and went, "I've got no internet connection." I was like, "Oh, Chris, this goes out on Monday." And he was like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, how about the weekend? You know, I'm not sure I'm going to have any internet connection then." Right, and then I got called into Specsavers, so we went in, and when I came back out, sort of like 45 minutes later or whatever, I just got this text that said, "Would Aynsley be good? He's happy to step in." And I'm like, to be honest, I'd rather talk to Aynsley than Chris. It's far more interesting, so it's worked out really well.
I thought you were just going to say, "Well, I'd much rather talk to you, but if Aynsley's all that's available, he will do."
Well, here's the thing. So already I've insulted Aynsley 3 or 4 times, and he's looked at me as if I literally have, you know, I have no right to actually be on the planet. But so our guest tonight is Aynsley Lister, who is a singer-songwriter and musician, and by his own rating, this is not our rating, because I'm not even convinced we agree with this rating, but by his rating, he's a 5.5 out of 10.
Yeah, which would then put the rest of us at about -4.
So I don't know if that's a 5.5 out of 10 as a musician or a 5.5 out of 10 as a singer-songwriter.
I tell you what, I was listening to, I was scrolling through your Facebook earlier, right. And I was listening to your cover of "Give Me Something Good" by Ryan Adams.
Right, yeah.
I'm a massive Ryan Adams fan. I'm not sure whether we're allowed to say that at the moment anymore. Or whether because he said sorry we're now allowed to like him again. But I've been a huge Ryan Adams fan for 20 years. And you did a cracking version of that song.
Thank you. Well, it was a lockdown thing because obviously we were all stuck at home. I was supposed to be going into the studio and then on tour right when the lockdown happened. So, you know, I was just bored at home talking to some friends, and a few of my basically all my friends, we're all musicians, you know, for want of a better word, loosely speaking. And
are you all 5.5s or some of them? Or do you not want to say?
I can't really say.
All right. Most of Aynsley's friends aren't 5.5 by Aynsley's rating standard. Just putting it out there.
Well, there's a few of my mates, and they were doing these kind of lockdown collaboration videos where everybody records their parts independently at home, and then one person kind of compiles a video and mixes everything. And I saw a few. I thought, oh, that's really, really cool. But I'm not very, very good with all that sort of thing. And I just got talking to one of my friends who was doing it. He said, "Oh, do you fancy doing one?" I said, "Oh, yeah, but I wouldn't have a clue how to do it." He says, "Oh, don't worry." He says, "You just record your parts and film yourself doing it. Send it to us and we'll do the rest." And they said, "Oh, you know, just pick a song." And I couldn't think of a song to do because I didn't want to do one of mine. They said it's better to do a cover song. And same as you, Jace. I've been a fan of Ryan's music for a long time, and that song was actually Give Me Something Good. It was the first song I ever heard. I think I was at a sound check at a gig up north in the UK, and the engineer was playing it in the sound check. I said, "What is that? Who is that?" He said, "Oh, it's this guy called Ryan Adams." I thought he said Brian Adams at first. Sure, that's never happened before. And so that song was the one that got me into Ryan's music, and it was just the first cover I thought, yeah, we could do that. So yeah, it was just a bit of fun over lockdown, and we thought we'd put it out on YouTube and all that, and it got a really good response, actually. It was good fun.
I must admit, I'm a Ryan Adams fan as well, but then I was a huge Whiskey Town fan. So I go back to the band before and was a huge Whiskey Town fan. So came from there for me.
I would say, Waiting to Derail is a book written by his tour manager when he was leaving Whiskey Town before he went solo. And this tour manager obviously was on the road with him the whole time. It's a fantastic read because he did like to go off the rails quite a lot. So it makes it a really good, fun read as a music biography.
Oh, right. I'll have to check that out. I mean, to be honest, I don't really know much about him. I'm just heard a few of his songs. I thought that's cool. So just from a musical perspective, I've got a few friends who've been to see him live and say, you know, from one tour to the next, he's like a different artist. He almost like reinvents himself, or whatever. But
if you've not heard Stranger's Almanac by Whiskey Town, you absolutely should. It is one of the greatest albums ever recorded. It's absolutely in my top 10, without a shadow of a doubt. So, and a recommendation for anybody out there, if you've not listened to Stranger's Almanac, you should, because it's brilliant. And I'm sure Jace will nod and say that it's a very, very, very good album.
He's nodding.
Exceptional album. I love it.
So, Jace, your day, you were going to get back onto your day because you had a guitar day and we were all going to pitch in.
Yeah, okay. So the first thing is, I'm not a Strat player. We've had this discussion. Obviously, Aynsley is, and the reason why I'm not a Strat player more than anything is I don't understand what the bridge pickup's for.
Really,
it's just rubbish, right? Just doesn't work for me at all. And I've had loads of Strats over the years, and I the further down the body you get on the pickups, the happier I am on a Strat, and it was really.
I thought that was in life. I didn't know where you were going there.
But so I was doing some research about a month ago on how terrible Strat pickups are, and there's huge forum threads about how terrible bridge pickups on a Strat are, and I came across this guy in the States, Magneto pickups that do a P90 in a single coil Strat size.
Right.
So I bought one and it got fitted today and it sounds awesome.
I actually thought you were going to say awful.
No, it sounds awesome. It's really fat and like everything that a P90 is clearly not a P90 because obviously it's still a Strat size sort of thing and I have no idea what the magic is behind it. But apparently it's got a really strong magnet in it. And I'm for the first time happy with the bridge pickup on a Strat.
I'm just going to reach over, which means that my voice has dropped a bit off the mic, and say that my Strat has a Seymour Duncan, stacked humbucker.
Yeah, see, because they're rubbish. You've got to change them. Just
so
Well,
now, I to be fair, I'm working towards getting rid of that, but I still want something that's got a bit more oomph. I just don't want something quite as not industrial, but it's a bit too hot, if I'm being honest. Right. So I kind of know what you mean. But Ainsley's going to disagree with both of us.
Yeah, no, because he looks really confused at the things that I'm saying.
Yes. He's not happy, is he? We've pissed off our guest.
In my
case, for the second time.
No. What it is, my main guitar that I play Strats, and I'm actually looking now. I've got just behind my computer screen. There's 6 of them, and they're all slightly different because they're all a little bit different, aren't they?
Yeah.
But I always go for a hotter pickup in the bridge. But it depends what you're trying to make. If you're trying to get it to sound like a Les Paul, then it's not going to do it, is it?
No.
But I always go for something a bit overwound or a bit fatter. But if you go for... I've tried a lot of pickups I'd say a Strat is probably the guitar where I've swapped pickups out the most. I mean, I've got one Strat. I must have put, and this is no exaggeration, I've put about 12 different sets of pickups in, trying to find the right ones, because I am actually so far down the rabbit hole. I mean, there are people that are further down than me. I'm aware of this, but I've tried all this stuff, and I've realised that, and I've tried so many different brands and wines and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, a fat bridge pickup in a Strat is what I like. But you can get good ones. They're not all. It's like so what you were saying, Jason, about like with a Strat, you don't know what to do with that. I'm the same. If I pick a Telecaster up, a Telecaster for me is either too woolly and indistinct on the neck. I don't like that in between position thing that tellies do, and the bridge pickup is too thin. So when I'm playing a telly, if I'm playing it acoustically, I quite like it. As soon as I plug it in, I don't know where to set it. It's just like I'm never happy. Whereas with a Strat, I find I can find I'm normally on either the neck pickup, the bridge, which you hate, or the number 4 position.
Yeah, see, I really like 4 and 5. Love them.
Yeah.
But 1. But now I've got this weird P90 hybrid sort of thing.
Yeah.
Sounds fantastic. So that was one of my guitar things today.
Right. Okay. Just while we're on the telly thing, and that and the bridge pickup on a telly. When you listen to somebody who can really do that kind of country chicken picking thing well, that sound does actually work for that.
It does
with
work
all the double stops and all the what have you. It does actually play into.
It does, and I think maybe it's because my style of playing is not like that. I'm kind of I like a bit of over. I suppose as a reference sound, like think of Billy Gibbons, like Lagrange or something like that. It's like that sort of like bridge pickup of a Les Paul or a bit brighter or whatever. But the telly for me is it's too shrill. But the chicken picking thing, it works really well.
If you can do that, particularly with that slight muting thing that they do with the fingers as well, then it does. That sound does work. But I agree with you. I don't know. I can't make that pickup on a telly sound like anything. For me, it just sounds. It's thin and weedy, and I can't make it. But that's the only style I think. For me, that's the only style that I think works. Yeah, definitely. I'm quite happy to listen to Albert Lee. With a telly in that position, just doing his thing. Yeah. Quite happy with that, or any of those guys.
The only telly I've ever tried, where I liked it, is it was a really dark, thick sounding telly, and it sounded like it had humbuckers in it. It sounded like it had P90s, and it was quite. It didn't have that kind of zingy top end, and that's the only telly I've ever played that I liked, and it was an old one, and it was a fortune. So, it basically stayed where it was. It didn't come home with me. But
So actually, we are for the record and for the moment, we're all kind of in agreement. So that's a first.
Yeah.
So go on then, give us the rest of your day.
So I'm going to have to move away from the mic.
All right. Okay.
Bear with me. So
right. Okay.
This arrived.
It did it? It just arrived.
Actually, it was just refinished. So it's actually a Greco.
Okay.
Oh wow! Is it one of those super real things?
Yeah, 1981.
Awesome.
And I sent it over to John at Rexter, and it got that. Is it called tomato soup finish? That's like the really red cherry burst, and it wasn't blended particularly well. Right. So I got him to refinish it. I sent him pictures of Keith Richards' 59 Les Paul and said, "Can you do it like that?" And you can't see this on Zoom. It is all lacquer checked and everything. He's done a cracking job. Sounds amazing.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. So that's happened as well.
Are you not going to give us a tune? You're not going to plug it in and give us some?
No.
Why not?
Because we're building our audience at the moment. We're in a phase of build.
Right. Okay,
that's the idea.
So that's happened as well, and then
you've got a third guitar story.
Yeah.
I bet you're really pleased you agreed to be the guest tonight, Aynsley, didn't you? I mean, we're not going to get to you at all.
And then this
Charvel
San Dimas.
Wow.
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 I've never had. I'm 50 years old and I've never had a Floyd before, and I thought I probably should try one.
Why?
Well, I don't know why. It's got a lovely neck on it, though, I have to say.
So what you've basically said is, I've never had a midlife crisis before, but I'm just about to have one.
Oh no, I've had loads of midlife crises.
Right.
This is just, a continuation of one that started at least 10 years ago.
It sounds like a guitar midlife crisis. Oh my God, I've never had a Floyd.
So I'm just intrigued. It may stay, it may not. I don't know. But so three guitar-y things today,
Right.
which has happened all by accident on the same day.
Right. And there answers the question, which at the start seemed very simple. What was? How are you, Jason?
I'm great.
Wait, 20 minutes later.
I just don't know what to play.
Well, no. I could make a suggestion, but I'm not going to. So we've already established that Aynsley is our guest for the evening, and he's very, very kindly jumped in literally at a moment's notice.
Yes.
And we've also established that actually I haven't got a clue about any of your work or what you've done in the past. So I'm going to let Jace take the lead, and I'm now just going to listen and be educated, I think.
So I suppose the first question I wanted to ask was, on your website it says your European tour's going ahead for next month, and I'm just kind of like, as an event organizer, I'm going to an event in a week or so's time, which is like a B2B event, just to try and figure out how they're doing it. So how is the European tour happening?
Okay, so the tour that I am about to do is in two legs. The first leg starts on the 2nd of October. Now, it's a tour that was actually booked probably about this time last year, and I was due to have recorded and had an album ready for release about now, but obviously this year didn't go to plan. Well, about 2 months ago, following the lockdown, I started to get emails from the venues, and they were saying, well, look, are you going to do your tour? And I said, well, are you going to be opening as a venue? And it was kind of this thing. They said, well, look, at the moment, we're just starting to like test the water by opening. They were doing, over the summer, they were doing like open air events where they could, so people could kind of distance and be safe and all that kind of thing. The bottom line is that all the venues on the tour, collectively, there's probably about 25 dates that I'm doing across Germany, Holland, Austria, and it ends in Switzerland. They're all the venues are opening, and they want to do shows, but with a limited capacity. That's the thing. So, I mean, there's one venue like at the start of the tour. It normally holds, its regular capacity is 450. They can only have 150 people in. So all the venues and the gigs are going ahead, but with limited. The audience is going to be about a third of what it would be normally, and they've all got a distance, and quite a few of them. It's a strict seated kind of layout. But they just, so pretty much everybody I know actually. I actually did my first gig since March last weekend. I actually flew to Germany last weekend and did two festivals, and I went with a friend of mine, Ben Paul, who's also another English kind of blues rock singer guitarist. And he said to me, I can't believe you're going on tour. He says, everyone I know has cancelled. I've just cancelled mine. He says, you're the only one that's doing it. How are you same question you just asked me. How are you doing it? And I just thought, well, for me, I've sat at home all year. I've been really, really bored. I just want to go out. I want to go out and play. And if it's possible to do so, okay, albeit to a smaller audience, then I'll do it. And also, it supports the venues. It means the venues can at least try and get everything moving. Because the thing is, if I wait until things go back to normal, well, when I don't think things will ever be like they were before. Certainly not for a few years at least. So, by having this chance to actually go and do a tour and play to less people, and it's going to be, there's going to be regulations in place about keeping distance and wearing a face mask and stuff. But I thought, well, if I can go out and do it, I will. because I kind of live and breathe for music. I really miss it, and I've never had longer than a couple of weeks, probably since I was about 15, where I've not done a gig. And like I say, last weekend is the first time I played since March. I've never had a break like that before. It's been the most bizarre thing ever.
Yeah, it has been really bizarre. I was on your Facebook page and I've seen you've been doing like these little kind of like noodling short videos and stuff, but it's not the same, is it? It's
you kind of just sat at home, just sat on a stool, noodling away in your own little world. And I did a couple of those online gigs where you stream it on Facebook. Anybody who's done it will tell you it's the weirdest thing. You're doing a gig, you're literally playing to your computer screen, but potentially there's thousands of people watching you live. And then when you finish the song, you get like this massive influx of messages going, "Oh, great! Oh, wonderful! Oh, vocals are a bit loud! Oh, turn your guitar up!" and it's kind of that's your applause, and you sort of look at, see who's watching, and so and so's hello. But it's the most weird thing in the world. So I did two or three of those. Just I wanted to take part because again, everyone was feeling fed up. Still are, and I thought, well, music's really good for the soul, isn't it? To kind of lift spirits. So, I thought if I can take part and be, help people have a slightly better day than they probably were having, I thought I'll do it. So,
excellent.
But there you go. So yeah, I'm going on tour. I am going on tour.
I'm going to catch up with you when you get back and find out how it went. Because I had two phone calls today about people wanting to book the guitar show.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the government haven't even said I can hold indoor events yet, so I'm kind of a bit stuck, but I'll gladly add you to the waiting list of people wanting to book.
Yeah.
I have a bit of a technical question about your tour, actually. So,
okay.
Is it all within one country, or are you going to move from country to country?
No, we're going to be going, start in Germany.
Yeah.
Then we go... So the first part is Northern Germany, then we pop over to the Netherlands for one or two shows, then back to Germany, then Austria, and then Switzerland. Now, we were going to do a couple of shows in Czech. We're going to do Budapest as well, and Bratislava, but all that Czech, Slovakia stuff, that's all been pulled. So now we're going down to Austria a few days early. So it's 3 or 4 countries. Yeah, and
here's the technical question then. So obviously we've got used to what's going on with corridors and where you can go, and if you come back from somewhere you have to isolate for a period of time. I take it you've got countries at the moment have all got open corridors, so you can move in between.
At the moment, yeah.
Right.
I mean, Germany, like I said, I flew out last Thursday and I flew back into Heathrow on Sunday. So I was out there for a couple of days. Germany's on the safe list, so I was able to fly out, do the gig, come back, and I didn't have to isolate or anything. But at the moment, Switzerland, which you do have to quarantine when you come back from Switzerland. Fortunately, on my tour, it's the last 4 days of the tour where we're in Switzerland. So I'll do the tour and then I'll come back and just hide away for a couple of weeks.
So the next question would be, if you went to somewhere on the tour that then turned out to be somewhere you had to quarantine, a la Switzerland, but the tour went on for 2 weeks after that, if that makes sense. So you were in so-and-so, but then you went to safe places, and then you came back. Would your quarantine period be classed as the tour, if that makes sense?
I mean, this is the risk I'm going to take.
Yeah.
Doing this tour, I think the reason that everybody else that I've spoken to at least has either pulled their tour or it's been pulled before they've had any choice in it, is because there are so many risky factors. Like there's a lot of the clubs that I play on the circuit that I work on, they have a lot of American acts, and of course for an American band to come over for 6 weeks, if they have a week or two pulled, then the whole thing just is pointless doing. So by me doing it, I'm taking quite a big risk, but I want to stay safe, and all that kind of thing, but I also don't want to just sit and wait for the next 2 or 3 years while things go back to normal, because I don't think they will. Certainly not. It's going to be a long time. So,
and like you say, if you need to isolate when you come back, that's fine, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You've made that decision.
Yeah.
And I suppose in this instance, if it still remains that Switzerland's still part of that, then you might as well be at the end.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, the first part of the tour, the first leg, it's 10 days from the 2nd to the 12th, I think, of October. And then we come back, and then the second leg starts on, I think, the 2nd of November, right through to the 24th or something. And by the time we get to that second leg in November, the next 3 or 4 weeks, things could have changed. There could be spikes. Should I do it? Should I not do it? That's a question I've been asking myself for the last few months. But I mean, when I was thinking about it earlier in the year, when we were right in the middle of the lockdown, I was in my head, I'd written the whole year off. I thought, there's no way it's going to happen. There's no way the venue's going to be open. But what it seems is that certainly Germany it always seems to be a few months ahead of the UK. So, I mean, when I was with Ben at the weekend, my mate Ben Paul, he said he's been trying to book a tour or sort a tour out for February, March next year in the UK, and he said it's a nightmare because venues are just not open. So in the UK, we do seem to be a little bit behind in terms of the progress, but, who knows? I don't know, it's just one of those things, we'll just have to see what happens. But there you go.
So, I thought I'd written, talking about you being on tour, I'd written some notes down earlier, and this is for Ant mainly.
Okay.
So I'd looked at the people that you'd toured with,
right,
and I was genuinely blown away because, I've known you for a couple of years, and I don't think I've ever spoken to you about it, but you've played with Buddy Guy, Walter Trout, John Mayall, Robert Cray, Leonard Skinner, ZZ Top.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty damn impressive.
It is a good list.
It's an exceptional list with Buddy Guy sat firmly at the top.
Yeah, he was awesome. Actually, he was really cool. He was very, very drunk.
All of the time.
Well, I went into his dressing room to say hello to him, and kind of shake his hand. That thing you do when you're a young lad playing a guitar and you get on a gig like that. I was like, "Oh, it's great to meet you, Mr. Guy." And he kind of just looked at me whilst filling a glass, like a wine glass with, I think it was Remy Martin or something. And he just, as I sat at the side of him, he just necked it like it was a can of Tizer or something. And he was about to go on. And I sat and I thought, and I couldn't get any sense out of him. And I thought, this guy's K-Light. There's no way he can even stand. And he kind of he hobbled on stage with his head down. And it's almost like somebody had plugged him into the mains. And he kind of just looked up with this big smile and just went into Buddy Guy mode. And he just had the audience by the scruff of the neck from the minute he started. And I'll never forget that. It's the first time I ever saw him, and I opened up for him. That's probably when I started out, probably about 20 years ago. But I've just never seen anything like it. It was proper, cool, the blues guy that's, drunk, and he's just done a load of whiskey and whatever else he's done. And then he walks on stage and he's amazing, But yeah, very, very cool.
So what was touring with ZZ Top like?
Well, I didn't do a tour with ZZ Top. I mean, I could lie and say I did, but no, I did just one show with them. That was in Norway about 10 years ago. And the funniest part about that was that they all arrived in their separate limos. they don't travel as a band. You would think there's only 3 of them, and you see, before that, I've always been to ZZ Top. I'd seen documentaries where they all seem like best mates. But no, when they're on the road, they all arrive separately and leave separately. They've all got their own buses. Apparently, they all travel in their own nightliner. So there's 3 nightliners that all get on the Autobahn separately. But the show was amazing. And they do all that kind of the dancey thing where the guitar necks are swinging in. And Billy, I mean, it's not until you actually meet these people in person. You kind of look at them on telly or whatever, and they're large and light. Billy Gibbons is about 7 stone. He's so skinny. And Dusty Hill, the bass player, he's about 4'3". He's tiny. Well, he's probably not 4'3", but he's tiny. I was stood at the side of him. I was looking down. All right, mate. Yeah, it's just they're not. you kind of have this ideal of what people are going to be like, or I mean, musically they were fantastic, really entertaining, and just really cool, But it's never quite what you think it's going to be like in your head when you meet these people. It's they're
always all smaller, aren't they? They're always smaller than you think they're going to be.
Have I told you my theory on this?
No.
So over the last 20 odd years, I've met loads of proper, big stars sort of thing, and they're all, apart from Duff McKagan, tiny.
Yeah, but that's because you're massive. You're about 7. You're about 7'5", aren't you?
Yeah, but I appreciate that. But I was at a Kerrang Awards once, and Angus Young walked past the table that I was sat at.
Oh yeah, but he's a dwarf,
and I was still taller than Angus, and I was sat down. Yeah. So,
oh wow.
But you see,
can I just thank you, Aynsley, because he's done that joke on this podcast before, but you laughed. He actually is.
Oh, right, okay.
He didn't get. I don't think he got it right first time round, but second time round, he's made a much better job of it.
He's been working on it.
So, my theory is that, like children, babies particularly, but young children are really cute because you've got that thing where they're born. Is it that your eyes don't change size as you grow?
Right.
So that's why all puppies and babies have got big eyes, because your eyes are fully formed when you're born.
Right.
And what really works is that with puppies and kittens and babies is they've got disproportionately large heads to tiny bodies. And everybody goes, oh, that's really cute. And then when you meet your Kylie Minogues or your Angus Youngs or your Dusty Hills, you go, oh, right, their proportions are that of a child, which makes them far more attractive, and therefore they look better in videos than a 7'5" giant that I am. For a start, the TV screen's only so big, right? So you're only going to get my knees or cut me off at the chest, whereas Angus fits perfectly on a TV screen.
Do you think that's why he's done so well?
Yeah.
I have a slightly different theory in the fact that Angus looks like his own pop. So you know those little things that are all the rage at the moment, those little pop things. He's the proportions of his own pop kind of doll or whatever they're called.
Pop or something, aren't they?
Yeah. So they're about this big, aren't they? With a great big head, and he's
it's the big head and the little bodies. I'm not wrong.
Yeah, we weren't planning on trying to get Angus on here, were we?
No. I don't think Angus is going to come on it.
That's just gone, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I'm a huge AC/DC fan.
Because you've called him a dwarf twice now.
I was going to text him. I've got his number. It's too late now.
Yeah. And Dusty's not coming on anytime soon. I tell you what I thought about ZZ Top. I saw ZZ Top a couple of years ago. Saw him playing at the Jazz Festival in Montreux, and for an hour and a half, they were a really good shuffle blues band. Apart from when they did Legs, Give Me Some Lovin', and
Sharp Dressed Man.
Sharp Dressed Man. When they turned into a stadium band, and then they just went back to being a really good blues shuffle band for every other track. And I don't know how that happened. The sound actually changed. So they played Legs, and they didn't sound like the same band that had played the previous song, if that makes any sense.
Maybe they had like some sequencing stuff going on or something.
Yeah, or they might have had some tapes or something, but it sounded different. So it was like 3 pieces of stadium rock, but then the rest of it sounded like I would have expected ZZ Top to sound like.
I think that was the weird thing, though, wasn't it, when Eliminator came out, that they were, I'd always viewed them as a blues band. I'd got a mate who'd got an older brother that had given him LaGrange and that, some of the early stuff, and we really liked that. And then Eliminator came out, and we were like, "What's this pop band?" But of course, it gave them the most success they'd ever had.
Well, it did. I actually watched. I can't remember what it's called now, but I watched a documentary on.
Oh, the one on Netflix.
All about this. Probably about 6 weeks ago. Because I've been in and out the studio post lockdown trying to catch up recording this album I was supposed to be doing, and just to get inspired, I suppose I just started like watching loads of documentaries on bands I like and all this sort of stuff. But I watched that, and it's really interesting to hear how and why they did all that kind of commercialization. They're just a great blues band with a great groove, and obviously they all just lock in. But I suppose it was just adding this new dimension that I think if they just stayed as a blues band, none of us would know them at all.
Yeah,
because it got them onto TV, didn't it? MTV.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and it was the perfect point for MTV. It wasn't just it got them on TV; it got them on MTV at the time when you actually wanted, and there was a huge commercial benefit for being on MTV.
Well, that's when it was music television rather than, what is it now? The Real Housewives of New Jersey or something seems to be on it now.
Well, the thing is, you think about those videos that, so you think about Sledgehammer, Peter Gabriel, and you think about the Money for Nothing video, and there's a few videos you think, right, well, that was, that whole platform was effectively evolved because of videos like that. And the ZZ Top videos were part of that whole thing.
Yeah, they were. I mean, it's, we were too poor to actually have MTV. You used to have to go around to a friend's house to sit and watch it. And give them what were they? VHS 180s were they, or something that you could get 3 hours on? Yeah. It was just record me MTV and I'll sit and watch it endlessly on repeat.
You didn't put them in those video cases that look like books, did you?
Yeah, everybody did. It was the 80s. Listen, I don't know why we felt that was far more attractive than a VHS cassette, but everybody did.
My parents didn't buy a VHS. They bought a Betamax because apparently it was one betterer, wasn't it?
It was the superior. It was the superior. Beast.
And it was a Sony one. And I think even in the 80s, it were like 450 quid. So it's just, by today's standards, been extortionate. But so they bought a Betamax because apparently the guy in the shop says, "Oh, it's much better quality, And then of course they released a handful of films, or it's mostly just a concert, music concert stuff that my dad would get. And then of course everything came out on VHS. So, but they were slightly smaller bookcase covers. So we had to have two bookcases, one for VHS and one for Betamax.
It was about that time. So when we got our first video, I think, or maybe some friends had one like this, but that had a remote control. Before remote controls were a thing, but there was on a cable
connected by wire. Yeah, I remember that.
So you could remotely turn the video on as long as you were within 3 feet of it.
Yeah, yes, we had one of those too.
We just dear, we digress.
Something for the kids.
Yeah. Our if our audience isn't already 40 plus, it will be by the end of this episode. So you talked there about your album. You've been desperately trying to finish an album.
Well, yeah, because my last album actually came out in 2016. And, as an artist, you want to be putting something out new every, at least every 2 or 3 years, ideally a bit sooner. But because I write all my own stuff, I can't just switch it on. So I have to kind of write when I've got something to say or I've got, an idea. So I started writing in dribs and drabs, and then me and the missus, we had a baby, and life took over, and our little he's like 2.5 now. So it got to 4 years. I thought I really need to record a new album. So I had plenty of stuff to write by this point, and then of course the lockdown kicked in. So by the time I actually got into the studio in July, a couple of months ago, I had about 30 songs that I'd kind of built up over the last couple of years. And we started track. I sort of whittled it down to about 13 or 14 songs, and a couple of the songs, in fact 2 or 3 of them, which I've ended up putting on, are ones that I actually wrote during the lockdown. I've got a song called "Is This Really Happening Now," which is obviously all about the crazy situation we're all in. Another one called "World Is Falling." It's all really depressing. I ended up with a couple of kind of really current songs, lyrically, that everyone can relate to. And they were probably some of the strongest songs I'd got, because I just wrote them. It wasn't where I sat down with, I've got to write a song today. I got the idea for it, and I thought, I've got to go into my music room now. I have to write and record this now as a demo before I forget it. And they're always the best ones, the ones where the songs that you write in an hour, songs that where I keep chipping away at for a few weeks, they might be all right, but the ones, it's always the songs where I mean, I think was it Noel Gallagher wrote "Don't Look Back in Anger" in like 25 minutes. I'm not saying I'm a Noel Gallagher, but you know, like the songs that normally come together the quickest are normally the best ones because you're not thinking about it. It's just instinctive. You've got a melody, you've got something to write about, you've got, you know, whatever. So I started writing that in July. Went in for 5 or 6 days, did a lot of the main tracking for bass, drums, some guitars. Then I went back a few weeks ago, which was the earliest they could get us back in. Because a lot of the studios that, since the lockdown, they've been inundated with bands trying to catch up. All the bands that should have been recording over the summer, they couldn't get in. Suddenly, the studios, the phone's ringing off the hook. So trying to get back in, it was another couple of months. So I've still got a few bits left to do on it, but yeah, it's coming together nicely.
There's an interesting thing in one of the things you said there, because it's not something I normally associate with blues as a genre, which is about the lyrics.
Well, okay, so I suppose I am known, or when you said, "Oh, well, what do you do? What sort of music is it?" I'm known. I'm a blues guitarist. I started playing guitar because I love blues. My dad's record collection. But as a songwriter, it goes way, way beyond that. So although my music, it's got a real bluesy underpinning, and there's a few shuffles here and there and a couple of slow blues, whatever, they're not just 3-chord blues. It's not just straight shuffles. So there's rock in there. There's a bit of Americana. There's all, you know, like I like Ryan Adams, Ray LaMontagne, and there's all sorts of other stuff in there that isn't blues. And it's basically a big melting pot. So as a songwriter or artist, I wouldn't strictly call myself blues, but because as a guitarist, it's always got that bluesy foundation. It's I'll be honest with you, describing my music to someone who's never heard it, I find it really hard. I can never find the right. It's hard because it's just music to me. But I suppose if you've not heard it, you need to know. Well, is it this or is it that? So it's hard to.
No, but it's also interesting that it was just what you said about the lyrics, because that appeared to be your starting point. That was the inspiration. You had something to say. Yeah. And often that isn't, even a lot of the genres you just talked about, often that isn't necessarily. I mean, Americana may be the closest to that with what you've just said, but it's not always. People who've got something to say often just pick up an acoustic guitar and bang it out because it's the thing they want to say that's driving it, if that makes sense. Right. And I'm being hugely disingenuous to a whole group of people there. So I've offended everybody this evening, which is fine because I'm doing it equally. But the point, there is, that's the bit that sort of surprised me a little, but not in a bad way, if that makes sense. I'm finding it interesting.
It's a really weird one because I play, like, the circuit that I play on when I'm doing these tours. It's like a blues. It's known as like a blues rock circuit. But a lot of the promoters, and I've had this said to me quite a lot of times by clubs I play all over Europe and around England, that they have a regular blues rock audience. And when there's a place up in Derby that I do every year, and they said that whenever you come and play, that 90% of the audience, we never see them at any other gig. And you attract a few of the regulars that like the bluesy guitar playing or whatever, but a lot of your audience, we never see them. Whereas a lot of the other bands on this circuit, it's a very similar audience that go and see this band and that band. But it's almost like, because the music that I do, it's a real mixture of stuff. And that's not to say it's not got an identity, because it has, I suppose. But it's really hard to describe what it is. I will always find a way. I mean, even when I've been in the studio with a friend of mine who's producing it, and he said to me a few weeks ago when we were doing guitar, he said they're well-crafted songs with interesting lyrics and good melodies, but he said there's always some cool guitar bits in there, but he said it's not overdone. It's not just guitar playing for this. It's not just whittle. It's not just it's a song which is just a setup for the next guitar solo. He said there's always a reason to have a guitar bit in there, but he said it's the right balance. And Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, it's a great place to be, because I think if I think of the bands that probably mean the most to me, a lot of them it's because the lyrical content is so strong.
Right.
So like I've become a big Richard Hawley fan. Right. Richard Hawley's very, very lyrically. It's he's got a lot to say, and it's very interesting what he's saying. And yes, there's some good guitar work on there, and it's wrapped around a fairly traditional kind of sort of style of music. But lyrically, it's interesting. But in the same way, I like Thea Gilmore. Thea Gilmore's very powerful lyrically.
Yeah.
But and it's the same thing as you've just said. There's songs in there that have great musicianship, but it's not about Whittle or it's not about X, Y, and Z. It's about everything fitting together.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I love, I live for playing guitar, and I love,
You love a Whittle as much as the next man.
I'm not a
Or
whittler,
lady.
actually. I'm not. I'm actually not. I'm probably. Yeah, I certainly wouldn't describe myself as a whittler. I'm kind of. Yeah, like a bit kind of less is more sort of thing. But like I said, I love playing guitar. But for me, if I go out on tour and I'm, doing these 2-hour shows or whatever, I want to put across to the audience like songs that have actually got melodies and hook lines and different moods that takes the audience on a bit of a journey. So every song is not just a massive onslaught of guitar. I mean, I love guitarists because, I am one. But, I can't, no matter how good a guitarist is, if I go and see a show where it's all about the guitar and the materials a bit lacking or whatever, I get bored. No matter how good the guitar playing is, after I've seen 4 or 5 songs of incredible, impeccable guitar playing, if there's nothing else there, that I've kind of, I think when I've had my 20 quid's worth, I'll go home now. Then. But yeah. I try and just, my thing is I just try and give people something else as well as some,
I remember being absolutely blown away years ago with the first Jeff Healey album because the songs were so good.
Right.
And that was the bit I wasn't expecting, because he'd actually been sold on the whole premise of being this, Hendrix-esque blues guitarist who was blind, and playing the guitar in this kind of unique way. And what I didn't actually expect was actually the songs to be as strong as they were.
Right. Yeah.
And I think ultimately there's only so long, that kind of impeccable playing can keep anybody interested. It sounds an awful thing to say, but
Well, no, it's not. I mean, I like Pink Floyd because it's some great music, but it's some great guitar playing. I like Fleetwood Mac. Like the Rumours album. It's really cool. It's got some great guitar playing, but it's also got some great songs.
I was watching a BBC 4 thing on the recording of Rumours, which I've seen like a million times before, but it was on recently. Yeah. And and obviously currently they don't all talk to each other again. And Lindsey Buckingham was in a studio, and they were listening to sort of like Rumours, and he was playing along on his guitar, and then they'd isolated his track on it. And I love Rumours, and I've heard it 100,000 times, sort of thing,
Yeah.
But actually, when you listen to his isolated guitar track, it was really nasty and gnarly and quite aggressive. But actually, when you listen to the whole track, you don't get that at all. He's a really phenomenal player.
He's actually one of my favourite players, and I name check him in quite a few interviews that I do. And Lindsay who? Because he's not, we say, I say, Hendrix, Clapton, or he doesn't come up that often. But I think, incredible guitar player, but also like aware of the full spectrum, because I think he obviously a lot of the songwriting and some of the production he did as well, didn't he? So obviously knows how to.
It's when he did that tour, when they did that, I think it was called The Dance.
Yeah,
and he did that live. He did that solo version of Big Love, just with that very percussive
really
guitar.
Really good, isn't it?
It's just incredible.
Yeah,
really. Yeah, but not. I mean, yes, because it's incredibly proficient, but also it was. I'd not heard anything like that. The way he attacks the instrument in a quite.
But it's a great song as well, though. That's the thing.
Well,
you could play it. You could literally just strum the song and sing it, and it'd still be a great song.
Yeah. But he goes beyond that, doesn't he?
definitely.
he does something really quite, and that was the point where it, to your point, because I knew him in context of the band, but saw that and thought, wow, he can really play.
Yeah, he's got some moves.
He's got some chops.
Breaking news: Lindsey Buckingham's a good guitarist.
Yes,
possibly a 5.5
quite
out
good.
of 10.
Possibly a 5, maybe a 5.5.
Can I just tell you where that whole slightly underselling yourself thing comes from? Because when I I've been
there
touring...
might be some people who think you are underselling yourself. So just be careful. What
I don't know. Well, the thing is, when I started playing gigs when I was 13, and then I did my first German gig when I was 21 or something, and I could not believe how the audiences in Germany responded in comparison to the UK. Now, the English, UK English people are known as being reserved, polite, don't get excited. You go out and play a gig in Germany, and you walk out on stage, and before you even play a note, they're going absolutely mental. They go, yeah, you're playing the blues, fantastic. And they're really up for it. Before you say, I've not even plugged in, mate, and you go into the first song, and they're with you, and it makes you feel so good. And then you come, say I've done a 2 or 3 week tour out in Germany, Switzerland, wherever it might be, and you kind of get used to it. You kind of get used to this. Oh, yeah. It's not that it's easy. It makes it easy, but then you come back to the UK, and the band's well oiled, and the set's well rehearsed, and you walk out on stage and you play the first couple of songs, and you think, yeah, this is cool, and then you get this kind of polite, oh, it's very good, yeah, and it's this kind of lukewarm. You have to work the audience, and then at the end of the night, if you've got some CDs to flog or whatever, you'll get people come and go, yes, that was really quite good. Not bad at all. But that, from an English person, that's a massive compliment. So it's one thing I sometimes do when I'm in Germany. I tell this story of the English politeness, and they love it. They love all that stuff, to hear that, they're really up for it. And English people, if something is absolutely incredible, it'd be like, not bad at all. Not bad. Yeah, jolly good. Yeah,
listen,
good effort.
You want to be thankful, because you could be at Hucknall Working Men's with somebody shouting out to you, "Play us one that we know."
I've probably played there at some point in my time.
So faced with the call of play us one that we know, I always remember. I went to university. The first year at university, I saw Delamitri. Right. I'm a huge fan of Delamitri. I thought they're a great band. And we got they've been playing for about 45 minutes, 50 minutes. And somebody shouted out, and it's first album, and somebody shouted out, right, that's it. You've done long enough, play as you hit. And I thought, grief, that's a British audience for you, isn't it?
Play as you hit.
Play as you hit.
Yeah, play as the stuff we came to hear.
Because at that point, they had actually only got one hit. Go on, we've heard enough. Play as you hit.
Do you know what I really like? I don't know if you've ever played the Robin in Bilston.
Yeah, about 20 times.
Yeah, do they do that bit? I know it's my favourite bit when you go and watch a band. There is that someone wanders on stage in between the two acts and says the hot pork rolls are available in the other bar, and half the venue empties.
In a Brummie accent, yeah.
Listen, when I was gigging, the best thing I ever did was end 5 minutes early so they could have the bingo. That's the literally the closest I've ever felt to an audience announcing we were ending 5 minutes early for the bingo.
I used to play in a band, a function band that we used to play around the working men's clubs when I was about 15 or 16, completely illegal, and they actually, because it was time for bingo and we were supposed to finish at 8:30 prompt or 9:30 prompt. At 9:32, we were still in the middle of the song. They actually told us to stop playing in the middle of the song because it was eyes down for Full House. Love.
Oh, we've all been there.
And we kind of just like, you're in the middle of a song. The drummer just slowed down. We kind of just faded ourselves out. But no one in the audience batted an eye. They were all like, right, bingo, 8 and 4. We kind of stood there like, cup of tea. So we just went into the dressing room.
Who's got me dabber? Yeah, I know. I know. We've all been in that situation.
Yeah,
haven't we?
the difference is, and me and you never actually moved on from that level
No,
of gigging.
no. Those are the only memories I have
Yeah.
of gigging. Really, doing finishing early for the bingo. But there. So how far on is the album? When are we?
Well, how far on is the album? So I've still got to sing it all. We need to add keyboards and some other overdubby bits. Might get some violin on one of the songs. I wrote a couple of film tracks. I don't know if either of you saw a series called Killing Eve.
Yeah, loved it.
Year.
Yeah,
It's really good, isn't it? Well, I got really into it, and I thought the two lead characters were just brilliant. And I'm quite into film music, so at some point during my writing, I started messing around with just, sort of like soundtrack type music, and I came up with some stuff which is definitely not blues, but I wrote a couple of songs, which have actually ended up going on the record. At the moment, they're called Eve 1 and Eve 2, because I got names from you. But they're based lyrically. They're based on that TV series, and they might have a bit of, orchestral strings on there, which we need to add at some point. So, So the album, to answer your question, it's not going to be out till next year, because even if it was ready now, I probably wouldn't release it now because I just think it'd just get lost in the ether. I know a few people have released stuff over the last few months, but when no one's touring, if you just release something online, it's very much here today, it's forgotten about tomorrow. So until I can actually go out and tour to what I would call a sizable audience and not a quarter of what I would normally play to, then I'll release it. So it's probably some point next year, hopefully.
Well, maybe you can bring it to the guitar show and...
I could. You could cut the red tape, couldn't you? You could say.
Absolutely.
Chris from Rift and myself, we actually released my signature amplifier at your show 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We did.
How did that come about?
Well, it was Chris's idea. Totally Chris's idea. We met about. I got to know Chris about 6 years ago or so, 7 years ago. And we got chatting, and he realised that I'm quite into my sound and quite particular about what I use for it. And there's a couple of old amps I've got which sound really great. And whenever I do these guitar weekends, like these guitar workshops, it's a bit like Guitar Break, that sort of thing. And I always have my gear there, and all of the guys that come, they can just plug into my amps, and the most common response is they'll plug into one of my old amps and go, my God, where can I get one of these? But the amp I had was kind of modified and all this sort of thing. So Chris said, well, you've obviously got your amp set up in such a way that people like it and it sounds good. So why don't we try and build something that encapsulates all of your sound, basically an amp that gives you your sound, all of your favourite amps in one box. So we just set about building and designing something. So we used I've got a couple of old Marshalls, old Fenders, which I've kind of sourced and found over many years of just trying and to find the right ones. And we just use those as the benchmark. Well, these are the ones that sound good. Let's try and get one amp that does all of that stuff that people can buy and is available.
Yeah, because I was on your website looking at your gear list.
Yeah.
And the amp list is endless, isn't it? It just keeps going.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to all this stuff. I suppose as a guitarist, you listen to all these records, and all those records were made like Hendrix. It was all Marshalls, wasn't it? So all this, you think of the stuff that's around today, the amount of pedals and technology that's around. None of that was around in the 60s and 70s, but all of the guitar sounds I like are from the 60s and 70s. So I basically made a point of going to find and buy all of the amps that all my favourite players would have used. And I just built up a bit of a collection. So yeah, well, when me and Chris were working on the amp, we had all these amps around us, and we plug in and say, well, I like the way that one compresses, and I like the reverb on that one. That one's got a really nice mid-range, and just stuff like proper geeky stuff, you know. And Chris was patient enough, although I don't think he quite realised what he was getting into until we started. He realised I am really fussy, really, and like if something's not, if it's 98.5% there, I'm not happy. It's got to be just right.
Yeah, it's not a 5.5 out of 10 kind of amp. It's got to be a 10 out of 10.
Even though it's a 5.5 out of 10 guitarist playing it, you know. But yeah, and we just kept going at it and kept. So he'd build a prototype. I'd take it on the road for a couple of months, and I heard him in an interview. Says, yeah, he said it'd be about 11:30 at night. He said I'd be just about to go to bed, and Aynsley, my phone would be ringing. It's Aynsley. He's at a gig in Germany, saying the mid range needs a bit more high mids, and it's compressing in the wrong way. I can't remember doing that, but apparently that's what I was doing when I was on these tours. I would just, whatever time of day it was, if I had an experience with the amp, or the reverb was a bit too splashy today, I'd phone him and tell him. So we kept tweaking it, and then we got to the point where we were happy, and it's now my main amp when I go out. And we released it at your show a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
There you go.
You came back this year and did Purple Rain with Mick.
Oh yeah, Mick Taylor. Yeah, got Mick up. Mick's a great player. Known Mick a few years.
He is a great player, isn't he?
He's you know, obviously anybody that's seen him on that pedal show, he's a proper geek. Probably not that much more than me, to be honest. So we kind of click on that level. But he's a great player, really good blues player. So it was good to get him up and have the crack, you know.
Cool. Well, gentlemen, I've got to go. I've got to depart. But I think we've been talking for about an hour, haven't we?
We have. You know, we've and it has felt, and I have said this before, but it's literally felt like no time at all.
Not at all. So
you know,
thank you, Aynsley, for doing it. Thank you for stepping in at the very last minute. We will roundly take the piss out of Chris when we get him on in a week or so's time and his broadband is back on. It's been very much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Cool. Right. Well, I guess, Jace, this is it. We can't do any kind of extended, you know, wrap up or anything, can we? Because you've got to take you've got taxi duties, haven't you?
I've got family taxi duties to deliver. I'm currently a minute late, so I need to go, I'm afraid.
Yes, indeed. Well, thanks to everybody for listening. Thanks for continued support for everybody. Obviously, keep liking us, keep subscribing, keep telling all your friends, and we will be back we'll be back with you soon, and I'm assuming we'll be speaking to Chris from Rift as the next guest.
Yes, we will.
Awesome. Indeed. In which case, take care, everybody. We will speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. If you've enjoyed the show, then please remember to hit the subscribe button and share with other like-minded souls. For more information about 9 to 42, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram at the Guitar Show UK. This has been an A Short Stories production.